So I had concluded on my own that these kids were actually his biological children. He viewed plus-size women as disgusting and not worthy of love. And now for the story about the atheist client. And to even preface the story, this was one of the most horrific interactions I had while online dating. You could probably already guess, yes, I did match with him on Facebook dating. Thank you for asking. So interacting with the atheist client, he was honestly one of the most dreamiest guys that I had talked to while experiencing the online dating scene. To start off our interactions, he was just very good at ice breaking. In fact, the very first thing that he had done, or that he had asked me, was how I would describe my Facebook profile using just a GIF or a GIF, however you want to say it. And I thought that this was the most unique way that any guy up to this point had started a conversation with me. Needless to say, the further we got into conversation, the dreamier he got. He was just very good at having enriching conversation. He was the type that would type a paragraph. All you ladies swoon for that, I know, because I for sure did. The conversation was just very good, very enriching, very interesting and engaging the entire time. We did not have a period of awkwardness at all during that first interaction. So because the conversation was going so good, and me wanting to continue the conversation further to try to get to know him additionally, I had basically asked if he wanted my number, and I gave it to him. So our messaging from Facebook dating went to text messages. And by the end of our first night's interaction, he had basically swept me off my feet, which was definitely different from what I had experienced prior to my other matches and conversations. And I remember that that first night, he had asked me if I would like to go on a date, which I accepted partially. I knew that still being in quarantine because of COVID, I wasn't able to really go out for an extended period of time yet. But I had accepted knowing that at some point it could be a thing. And I remember that he asked me to a shooting range, which was very not smart on my end. But I had agreed, and in the morning after our first interaction, he basically reached out again and he started messaging me first, which we all know a good morning message from a guy that we're interested in goes a very long ways in our female minds. And of course, this all changed with one simple question. I had asked him about his religious views, which is a perfectly fair question. He basically explained that he was atheist. Growing up, I had been exposed to church and exposed to religion from the very young age up until now. And when I first found out that he was atheist, I was very reluctant into trying to get to know him any further because his views just did not match with my views as far as religion. And at the time, I was still trying to be very open to people and experiences, so I had decided to at least give him a fair enough chance to see where the relationship would go, if it would even go anywhere. And I remember telling my mom about this news, and she was so reluctant about this portion of him, and she wasn't quite sure about him at all at this point. So we continued talking that night, and the next day I had still continued talking with him. And like the other matches, I decided that it would be in my best interest just to see if I could find his Facebook profile and to do a little creeping. Now he being a very smart gentleman, had his Facebook profile blocked, which I then proceeded to go ahead and friend request him, which he did accept. And boy, did this open up a whole nother can of worms. So prior to this moment, in our very first interaction, he had mentioned that he had dealings with my company and that his family had also worked with my company in the past. And honestly, I didn't pay that comment too much mind, because was it truly my company or a franchise? I don't know. All I know is that he had said that he had dealings with what I did, and that he had even asked if I had been one of the people that helped support his family at the time, which I did not. I did not recognize this guy. So of course, being the thorough Facebook creep that I am, I decided to look through his pictures just to see what he's about and to see if he has any kids of his own that he is also hiding. And of course, it wouldn't be a horror story if there wasn't a horrific turn. While looking through his photos, I had discovered that I had recognized one of the women in his pictures. This woman had actually been a very close client to my company. And when I say close client, I actually mean she was one of the more difficult clients that my company had worked with. So at first, after making this discovery, I was 100% shocked, because obviously I knew that this whole interaction was both inappropriate and unethical based on where I worked and based on his experience with the company. And I basically, right from the start, had kind of ended it in my mind. And I remember just being shocked and sitting at my desk for about 30 seconds in just complete utter disarray, not knowing what I should be doing first, and just freezing and thinking about all of the bad things that this meant. To put it into perspective, as soon as I realized what I had discovered, I had ran from my desk because I was still working at the time. I was literally at my job when I discovered that he and his family were clients of my company. And I ran down to meet my boss in her office and explain the entire thing. Not only was I embarrassed, but yet again I was completely shocked and highly disappointed that this was even a discovery. Thankfully, my boss, being who she was highly accepting and very patient, but very firm in letting me know that I should not continue this conversation or interaction, and I should end things where they are now. And me being who I was definitely willing to take that advice. And I went back to my desk, and I had basically thought about how I was going to word it to him that I could no longer interact with him. So at the end of the day, circumstances being the way they were, I had basically explained to him that I was no longer feeling anything and I was no longer interested in pursuing anything further. And thankfully, he was very accepting of this explanation, and we wished each other nothing but the best, nothing but positive vibes going both ways. And I immediately blocked him on text messaging capabilities and Facebook yet again. Thankfully, I did not have to own up to the fact of me knowing exactly who his sister was. And to be honest, I don't even think that he really put two and two together, to be completely honest, which was nothing but great for me. Knowing that this interaction had ended kind of left me pretty disappointed, because he was very charming, he was very fun to interact with, and I thought that he had become a very good perspective for a period of 2 or 3 days. Again, I don't know where he is now in his life or in his love life, because I have basically blocked all forms of communication, but I still wish him nothing but the best. And after having thought about this interaction for the several months to follow, I basically learned that I can be open to people. And I kind of surprised myself by being as open with him as I was. Like I said, his views and my views on religion did not match up at all, and typically prior to these interactions, I would have shut down that interaction right then and there. However, I felt that I grew because I was willing to experience him as him, but it just didn't work out.